Did you know that after the age of 80, over 40% of people live completely alone, and more than half say they no longer feel seen by the world? That's not just a number. That's someone's everyday reality. That's waking up to silence. That's making a cup of tea and realizing no one's called in days. That's having a birthday, and the only card that shows up is from your pharmacy. Aging isn't just about the candles on your cake or the stiffness in your knees. It's about the quiet shifts, the kind no one prepares you for, the kind that creep in slowly until one day you look around and think, why didn't anyone tell me it would feel like this? Now, don't get me wrong. Getting to 80 is a gift, but even gifts can feel heavy if we don't understand what's inside. So in this video, I want to walk with you through 6 of the toughest truths about life after 80. Not to scare you, not to complain, but to bring clarity. Because once you see these things clearly, you're no longer at their mercy. You'll hear stories of people just like you, strong, wise, independent, but also human. And we'll talk about what you can actually do to stay connected, stay grounded, and even find peace in the changes. And here's something most people don't expect. The hardest parts of aging? They can become your strongest moments if you meet them with honesty and heart. If anything I share today speaks to you, I'd love for you to leave a comment down below. Tell me your thoughts, or simply say, I'm here. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to Elder Life Wisdom. We make these videos to walk this road with you, one step at a time. Now, let's talk about what really changes after 80. Starting with something no one tells you until it happens. When the people around you begin to quietly fade away, you start to notice it on the quiet days, the ones where the phone doesn't ring, the ones where the only footsteps you hear are your own. No one really talks about how, after 80, your social circle doesn't just shrink. It slowly disappears. Not all at once, not dramatically, just quietly. Friends who once called weekly stop calling. Some move away, others pass. Neighbors sell their homes. Even family who still loves you deeply starts coming by less often, not out of neglect, but because life speeds up for them, just as yours slows down. You're not forgotten. You're just no longer in the center of the swirl. I remember Walter. He's 84 now. He used to go to the same coffee shop every morning for years. Staff knew his name, his usual order. It was like a small piece of routine wrapped in comfort. But then one friend moved to be closer to family. Another stopped driving. One passed away. Eventually, Walter found himself sitting alone in the corner booth. Still the same coffee. Still the same chair. But somehow everything felt different. It's a strange kind of grief. Not loud, not dramatic, just hollow. A silence that stretches across the afternoon. A walk that feels longer because no one's waiting at the other end. You start realizing that the list of people who really know you, is getting shorter. And that can feel like a kind of disappearing all its own. But here's what I've learned from folks like Walter, and maybe even from my own experience. Connection doesn't come to you anymore. You have to go get it. You have to be the one to call, to suggest a weekly lunch, even if it's just with one person, to join the community center book club, to say yes to the Sunday group walk, even to write letters, real ones. It takes effort, and yes, it takes courage. But you didn't come this far without plenty of that already inside you. Staying connected now isn't about having a crowd. It's about finding the few voices that remind you you're still very much alive. Now, let's talk about something even more personal. The way your body stops bouncing back, the way it used to. You know that feeling when something small happens. like a sore knee, a stumble on the step, or just waking up a little more tired than usual. And it takes days to shake it off. That's what changes after 80. Your body doesn't whisper anymore. It speaks loud and clear. And sometimes it doesn't bounce back like it used to. It adjusts. It compensates. But that quick recovery, it slows. I remember Gloria. She's 81, used to tend her backyard garden every morning. Roses, tomatoes, even a lemon tree she babied like her own child. One morning, she reached a little too far to clip a stem, lost her balance, and took a soft fall. Nothing broken, just a sprained wrist and a bruised hip. But it wasn't the fall that changed things. It was what came after. Weeks of rest turned into months of hesitation. Her muscles weakened, her confidence dimmed. She told me, "I thought I was just pausing, but my body acted like I'd stopped for good." That's what no one warns you about. At this age, rest isn't always restorative. Sometimes it leads to decline if you're not careful. You nap to recover, but the fatigue lingers. You stop walking for a few days, and suddenly stairs feel like mountains. The body begins to make decisions without asking you first. But don't think that means you're powerless. What it means is that now, every move you make carries more meaning. You don't have to run marathons or hit the gym 5 days a week. But stretching gently in the morning, that matters. Taking slow, steady walks in the sunshine, that matters. Drinking water, eating enough protein, listening to your breath, letting go of the guilt when you need to rest, but not letting rest become your routine. One woman told me, "I can't bounce anymore, but I've learned how to land softer." And that's the shift. You move differently now, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You've earned that wisdom. Let's keep going, because after the body slows down, something else becomes clear. You start needing more help, even when you'd rather not admit it. It starts with little things. You stop reaching for the high shelf. You wait until daylight to go down the stairs. You pause before getting behind the wheel when it's raining. You don't say anything out loud, but you know something's shifted. After 80, needing help becomes a part of life, and that can be one of the hardest things to accept. Not because you're stubborn or proud, but because for so many years, you were the helper. You were the one holding others up. And now, asking for a hand feels like surrender. But it's not surrender, it's strength in a different shape. Eugene, 85, used to build everything with his own hands, raised 4 kids, built a garden shed from scratch, survived a war. But one icy winter morning, he slipped on the driveway. Just a bruise, but it shook him. He didn't tell anyone, didn't want to worry his daughter. But she noticed something. He moved slower, looked smaller. She started coming over once a week. Groceries, coffee, a chat. At first he resisted. "I'm fine," he'd say. But eventually he admitted, "It's nice not having to carry everything alone." That's the moment when you stop measuring independence by how much you can do on your own and start measuring it by how long you want to keep doing what matters. Because truth is, accepting help isn't giving up your freedom. It's protecting it. It doesn't have to be big things. A grab bar in the shower, a stool in the kitchen, a note on the fridge reminding you to take your meds, even a friend calling each night just to say good evening. These aren't signs of weakness. They're tools of wisdom, of safety, of love. And maybe the bravest thing you'll say this year isn't, "I've got this," but, "Can you give me a hand?" And now, let's look at something deeper. Not physical, not practical, but emotional. The strange way the world starts to look right through you, like you're fading, even when you're right there. You walk into a store, and the cashier looks right past you. At the doctor's office, they speak to your adult child instead of you. In a restaurant, the waiter talks slower or louder than needed, as if you've lost your mind along with your hearing. It's not always mean-spirited. It's subtle, soft. But over time, it adds up, and it hurts. After 80, there's this quiet shift where you begin to feel invisible, not to the ones who love you most, maybe, but to the world, to strangers, to systems, to society. And it stings in a very specific way, because you've lived a life. You've worked, raised a family, made hard decisions, faced loss and change, built things with your hands and your heart. And now, you're treated like you don't know how to use a phone. Or worse, like you don't matter. I once met Irene. She's 86, sharp as ever, a retired history teacher. She volunteers at a museum downtown. One day, a visitor asked a question about the Great Depression, something she'd lived through, something she'd taught for decades. But the staff member skipped right over her to answer. When I asked how she felt, she smiled and said, "I'm used to it." But behind that smile, there was a flicker of sadness, the kind that comes when your voice starts to echo instead of land. But here's the truth. You are not furniture. You are not background. You are still here, still thinking, still powerful. And the world may forget, but you don't have to. So what do? You speak up anyway. You tell your stories. You give your opinions, even if no one asks. You raise your hand, not because you want attention, but because you deserve to be counted. You remind people, gently or firmly if needed, that age doesn't erase relevance. That gray hair is not the end of your voice. It's the proof that it's been speaking for a long time. You don't need to shout. You just need to refuse to disappear. And now, let's talk about a truth that lives even deeper. Beneath the silence, beneath the slower steps, the feeling that creeps in when the calendar is empty and your purpose feels like it's gone missing. It comes slowly, like a quiet fog. Not sadness exactly, not boredom, just space. The house is calmer. The calendar is clearer. There's time to sit, to think, to remember. And that can be beautiful, until it isn't. Because when life slows down after 80, something unexpected happens. You start to look back more than you look forward. And if you haven't found a new purpose for your days, that space can turn into something heavy. Not loud regret, but the quiet kind. I wish I'd taken that trip. I should have forgiven her sooner. Why didn't I try when I had the chance? The kind of questions that keep you awake at 2 a.m. The kind of feelings that show up when your body says rest, but your heart says, I'm not done yet. That's what happened to Stanley. He was 88 when we talked, a teacher for over 40 years, loved by generations of students. But after retirement, after his wife passed, after the kids grew busy, he said something I'll never forget. No one needs me anymore. But that wasn't true. He just hadn't found a new way to be needed. Because here's something no one says out loud. Purpose doesn't retire. It just changes shape. Maybe you don't build houses anymore, but maybe you build confidence in your great-granddaughter by showing up at her recital. Maybe you don't run a business anymore, but you run your neighbor's errands when they're sick. Maybe you don't lead meetings, but you lead by listening. The danger of regret isn't in what you've done. We all have moments we wish we could change. The danger is staying stuck in them, thinking your best days are already behind you. But when you begin to redefine purpose, not as work or productivity, but as presence, you'll see it everywhere. In small moments, in gentle smiles, in quiet prayers, in curious questions. That's not regret. That's redemption. And it's always, always within reach. But even when you rediscover purpose, there's still one more truth, waiting quietly at night. The part no one talks about, because it feels too vulnerable. When even sleep starts slipping away. There was a time when sleep came easily. You'd lie down, pull up the blanket, and drift off before the second thought even arrived. Morning came too fast. The body rested. The mind reset. But after 80, something changes. You find yourself staring at the ceiling more often than sleeping. Waking up 2-3 times a night. Not from dreams, but from aching joints, a full bladder, or a mind that won't quiet down. You try adjusting the pillow, the light, the room temperature. But the truth is, sleep is no longer simple. It's something you have to work for. Margaret, 87, once told me, "I used to love bedtime. Now I dread it. It's where all my thoughts catch up with me." And she's not alone. Many seniors say the nights are the hardest, not because of pain, but because of silence. That kind of silence that makes you remember, replay, rethink. And when the house is too quiet, sometimes the regrets start speaking louder than rest. But here's what I've come to believe. Even when sleep isn't easy, rest is still possible. You may not sleep straight through the night, but you can create peace before you lie down. A cup of chamomile tea, a journal by your bedside, a short prayer or meditation to let the day go gently, not to force sleep, but to welcome rest in whatever form it comes. And when you do wake up at 2 a.m., because some nights you will, know that you're not broken. You're human. Your body's been through a lifetime. Your mind carries decades of stories. Of course, it needs time to settle. So you give yourself grace. You don't judge the restlessness. You meet it with softness. And maybe even let it become a sacred space, a time to breathe, to reflect, or simply to be. Because even now, even in the darkest part of night, your life is still speaking. And it deserves to be heard, with kindness. Now that we've walked through these 6 truths together, let's take a moment to step back and look at what they all really mean. So here we are. After walking through the quiet truths that most people never say out loud, truths that aren't meant to scare you but to free you. Because when you understand what this stage of life really brings, you stop bracing for the pain and start preparing for the power. Yes, the circles grow smaller. The body slows. Help becomes necessary. The world sometimes forgets you. Purpose gets blurry. Sleep gets tricky. But here's the miracle that no one can take from you. You are still here. You still have mornings. You still have choices. You still have moments that matter. And you still carry a strength that younger people haven't even earned yet. The strength of perspective, of endurance, of knowing how to keep showing up, even when things are hard. So what do you do with that strength? You reach out, even when the phone doesn't ring first. You care for your body, not to chase youth, but to honor the journey. You accept help, not as defeat, but as partnership, You speak, because your voice has history behind it. You forgive yourself for what wasn't and celebrate what was. And you rest, not just at night, but in the knowledge that you are enough, right now, just as you are. If this video spoke to you, even just a little, leave me a comment down below. I read every one. Tell me what part hit home, or simply say, "I'm here." And if you want more honest, helpful conversations like this, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Elder Life Wisdom. We're building a community of people who still believe life is worth showing up for, at any age. You're not invisible. You're not forgotten. You are a living story. And the next chapter is still yours to write.